How did you invest in tax lien?
It's interesting because I actually learned about it from Robert Kiyosaki. I read his book. Essentially, you're buying liens from Arizona. I want to say like 6 counties in Arizona. So it was super simple. I can do it from a laptop. It only took about a few hours every kind of tax season when they sold the liens. And so that was my first, I guess, entry into investing in some type of real estate. So depending on the county, so some of them you have to put a minimum of $5,000.
And you're buying these directly from the county? They have an auction site or?
Yeah, it's an auction site. So you get a full-blown list, right? And then you get all the information on it, pretty much anything and everything that you need. And then you put your bid in, and then they do the auction, and it takes about an hour or two, and then you get back all the ones that you essentially won, right? And so if there were no other bidders, you can get up to a max of 18% back on your money. So,
hey guys, welcome to the Realized Gains podcast. We're on episode 69. I'm Stephen Tran. I'm an Oregon and Washington realtor, and I invest in multifamily and short-term rentals.
And I'm your co-host, Jordan Lee, mortgage lender based here in Oregon, licensed in 9 states. I invest in single-family homes as well as a small multifamily.
And Jordan, who did we have the pleasure of having on the episode this week?
We had Jason James, who has a super interesting story to share, where he moved up here from California not too long ago and has since then invested in real estate as well as a franchise.
Yeah, no, I love his story of going from W-2, not feeling especially secure in that, being let go a couple times, and then kind of taking control of his own destiny.
Yeah, so he bought a painting franchise. So if you're interested in how to scale up investing in real estate and mindset, as well as investing in a small business franchise, I think this would be a good episode for you.
Yeah, check it out. Hey guys, welcome to the Realized Gains podcast. I'm Stephen Tran.
And I'm your co-host, Jordan Lee, and we're super excited to have Jason James here with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Jason, you want to just give us a quick introduction, where you're from and kind of how you landed where you're at now with your career?
All right, I'll bring in a journey. So fast forward to where I'm at now. I'm in the beautiful Pac Northwest, kind of rainy, cloudy. It was just 90 degrees last week. Hard to believe. Yeah. But originally from Southern California.
Okay.
When I was very, very young, moved up to Northern California, the whole Central Valley, Stockton, Lodi, Sacramento area. And I pretty much grew up there. I grew up in Stockton, California. Not the greatest.
Oh, I've heard lots about Stockton.
It's not that bad.
It's hot there, right?
Yeah, it's hot.
It's the first city to go bankrupt, right?
Yes, that was Stockton. So.
Yeah, that's fun.
Learned a lot. That's my stumping grounds. You hear all these crazy stories, but I grew up there, never had problems, a lot of great friends, a lot of great memories, make me like who I am today. So grew up in Stockton, California. It's very famous for Nick Diaz, the Diaz brothers.
Yeah,
so.
from UFC.
UFC. So that's why Stockton's famous. And then from there, kind of moved around, moved to Sacramento. And then once I graduated, I never thought I would be in sales. My very first job was working at Goodwill Industries. I was going to college part-time, and then kind of went down this journey of life like always, and then got into beverage sales. So I worked for Dr. Pepper for many years, and then went to Red Bull, worked for Red Bull for an extended period of my life. And that took me kind of throughout the United States. So I went from California to Texas, and then Texas back to California, and then eventually ended up out here in Oregon.
You weren't doing stunts for Red Bull?
No. I would give those guys high fives. So that's kind of how I got to where I'm at, I guess, logistically. But, I mean, the real story kind of begins, I would say, back in about 2015, 16, when I really started kind of had this epiphany to really start just working on myself from a personal development and investings and things like that, there were a couple of things that had happened back throughout my professional career where one big epiphany is like I was working for Dr. Pepper, and if you'd asked me whatever 15 years ago, I would have thought I would have retired there. Like, you know, it was just one of those things. I kept moving the ladder. Of course, businesses make business decisions. They decide to sell. So like all this like blood, sweat, and tears, everything I did for this company, and just like that, it was gone.
Yeah.
So that was like wake up call number one. Like, whoa, like it doesn't even matter how hard you work or how much time you invest. Like at the end of the day, like they make decisions.
Right.
And we were just talking about that earlier, right? With Wells Fargo and all these tech companies, like they're just laying people off left and right. So I learned that like way back then, and then it happened again at my next company. I was there, I moved up the ranks. I was a general sales manager, and it was for Red Bull, but it was like a mom and pop Red Bull operator, and they wanted to get out the business. And so once again, they sold, and all this unknown and uneasiness kind of happened, and that was like the light bulb was like, I will never allow somebody to have full control of my livelihood and my family's livelihood. And so that kind of led me down the road of like investing, and so got into like stocks, and I think
you started in stocks before real estate.
Yeah, I started in stocks before real estate, and then stocks and tax liens.
Okay.
So
and tax liens?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
read
How did you invest in tax liens?
So it's interesting because I actually learned about it from Robert Kiyosaki. I read his book and another book, and somehow I think I even attended an event in Modesto. They did like an event.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then they mentioned the book 18% Solution. And so I went and read it and like, oh, I can do this. And it seemed pretty simple. And essentially you're buying liens from like, I was like Arizona. The majority of them were Maricopa County. So I want to say like 6 counties in Arizona. And you bid on it, you win it, you can get up to 18% return on your money. Oh. So it was super simple. I can do it from a laptop. It only took about a few hours every kind of tax season when they sold the liens. And so like that was my first, I guess, entry into like investing in some type of like real estate.
And how did the mechanics of work? Like you put in, how much did you have to put in? And
so depending on the county, so some of them you have to put like a minimum of $5,000. Some of them had like.
And you're buying these directly from the county? They have like an auction site, or?
Yeah, it's an auction site. So you get a full blown list, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get all the information on it, like how much is owed, the parcel number, the property value. You have pretty much anything and everything that you need for the specific tax lien, and then you put your bid in, and then they do the auction, and it takes about an hour or two, and then you get back all the ones that you essentially won, right? And so if there were no other bidders, you can get up to a max of like 18% back on your money. So
yeah. Well, so then what is the timeline? So how long do you have to hold this thing, and how does it pay back?
So it's dependent on when the person that you put the lien on the property, they pay, right? And depending on county, so in Maricopa, after 3 years, you can put a lien on the property and then actually go after the property. Mm. And so for the most part, they pay within the first year, some are like 2 years.
And this is a lien for their property tax, or it's for like judgments?
It's only property tax.
It's only property
taxes. Yeah,
okay.
it's just essentially what you're doing is just feeding money to the local governments to keep the business going. Yeah, that's all it is.
Okay, and then they pay them back when they sell the house, or if they do something and they just decide to pay it off. Then it pays off the county lien, and then the county pays you, or
or if they were just to pay their taxes up, like so,
if they just come whole on their taxes, then so it pays off the lien.
So a lot of them, I would say about 40% you would get paid back within a year. Another 20% would probably be like by year 2, and I would say it's about 15 to 20% that would go into year 3 that you can actually take action on. So. Back then, I was really busy, and I'm missing my opportunities now that I think about it, that I could have like actually, enacted the lien and got the property. But just overall, I think from that time investing in tax liens, I have just like spreadsheet that had about a good 15 to 17% return.
Wow.
For very little use of time.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
Yeah. So that was kind of my first.
And is that market place still open? Like people still do it all the time? Like you could. What's stopping you from doing it now? Is it just too tedious? Or
Yeah, it was too tedious. Like once I actually started getting into real estate, then I got the bug, right? That was much more enticing, analyzing deals, the negotiation and all that. That was like a good, safe, easy. It felt really safe, right? And it felt easy. And it was like buying a stock, right? It was like all online.
A safe 18% sounds pretty
I was gonna say, like,
pretty good to me.
I mean, obviously, when you took your first step into real estate, were you beating those returns, or was it just, or I just like real estate more? It's more interesting than looking at a spreadsheet,
or more control, or
I think it was more of like evolution, because so went from that, then really got into stocks, right? And I was watching, what's his name, the guy Kramer every morning.
Mad Money or whatever.
Mad Money, that was my thing. I get up in the morning and Mad Money, making all the, and so that became a thing, and I did well. Of course, everybody did well back in like 2006.
That was the time when the stock market's going
Everybody's
up,
a genius when everything's going up.
Yeah,
so, I get it.
And then so I went through that kind of stage, and then I came to this point. It's like if I really want to become a trader, like I was spending about an hour in the morning, a couple hours throughout the week, but people like spend all day. I'm like, I'm not that guy. I had a job and whatnot, but I kept doing it, and then I would say like where the investing came in, like my very first investment property, I was an investor. So this is like back in 2018. I was back in the Central Valley. We had moved back from Texas back to California, and then I didn't own anything, and I was just getting murdered on taxes. And I was like, I got to figure out something. I got to get some additional write-ups, because I was just like giving all my money back to great old Uncle Sam. Just all going back.
Yep, we've been there.
And so started looking to real estate and in rentals, and I found this company called Roofstock, and I think they're still around, much bigger in a different capacity. They actually own Stessa.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and what Roofstock was, it was like a marketplace for. They marketed it as turnkey.
Okay.
So they would vet the lender, they would vet the property manager, like everything was super simple.
And the actual property was turnkey, like it was clean inside, everything was good?
Yeah, it was rent. Yeah, that's how it was marketed.
Oh, okay.
Right. You see my marketed, right? Yeah. So not to knock any company, but it didn't turn out the way I thought it would, but it was the best thing that happened. So,
but it kind of eased you into it, like it made you feel comfortable getting into it, getting started.
Yeah, because it was the same thing as like buying a stock. You go look at, you click on the property, has all of their financial analysis and like what the projected ROI is, has a pro forma.
Yeah.
When you don't know nothing, you're like, oh, this is great.
Like amazing.
22%, and but you don't know what you don't know, right? And so I tell people it's like my worst and best property, because I bought the property. The tenant was in there for 10 years. When you don't know what you don't know, I'm like, 10 years? Oh, that tenant, they're never going to leave. Not 10 years of wear and tear, right? Then I didn't vet the property manager. I went with who they suggested, because I'm like, okay, this is their platform and their suggestion. This is the property manager. This is who I'm going to go with. Of course, that didn't work out. Yeah. And then so the market that I started investing in was Michigan, just because of price point.
Michigan,
I bought this property. It was like $55,000. It's like doubled in price. No fault to me. I just happened to buy it at the right time.
Yeah.
So bought it, and I'm like, hey, worst case scenario, this thing goes empty. I think the mortgage payment was like $450 or something. I'm like, that's a couple times of like not going out to eat.
Right.
It's not gonna kill me whatsoever. Yeah. So went through with it, and I'm just expecting to like get checks in the mail every month, right? And so the first cycle of a month comes by. No check in the mail, right? And so hitting up the property manager like, hey, what's going on with the rent? We can't get a hold of the tenant. And month one turned into month two. All right, call up again, same story. And one of the things I noticed, it was really, really tough to get a hold of the property manager for me as the owner. Emails back and forth, calling. And then I think it was month 3, and I'm like, enough's enough. Somehow I figured out, I got the operations manager for the property management company to give me the tenant's information. Yeah. So I called her up, hey, this is Jason, the owner. Like, hey, just trying to help me understand like what's going on. Have to receive the rent payment. can you help me, just walk me through what you're dealing with?
Yeah.
She's like, I can't get a hold of property manager. I have 3 checks for you, right? It was 3 money orders. And she took pictures of them and everything. And she's like, I'll send them to you right now. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to collect it, if I could do it or not, because it was my first, my first property. And so it didn't get better after that, to say the least. Right? It did not get better. And so what that led to is I'm like, all right, I got to get rid of these people. So she ended up leaving. The tenant ended up leaving. So now,
just straight up, no eviction. You didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, she was just tired of it. She did make payments up until that point, but she just ended up leaving. So now got this property 3,000 miles away. 10 years of wear and tear, right? And I get the property management man. I'm like, hey, you guys do rehabs, and so this is like a 1,100 square foot house, basement, 3-2. No, 3-1, because there is a basement. I mean, a bathroom in the basement, but they gave me a bid for like $24,000.
So half the value of the house.
Yeah, I was like, I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night, and that was like the last straw. And so then that led me down to starting to do research, and then I found Bigger Pockets, and that just got me down this road of how to interview and vet property managers, how to interview and vet contractors, and it just kind of opened my eyes. And then I flew out there, fired the property manager. I went and interviewed a ton of property managers and contractors, and I found the one that I still use for that property to this day. It's been great.
Oh, nice.
They managed 2 properties. I may convert some other properties over because I do have a property management company that's kind of not the greatest like they used to be, but. So that's kind of how it all started for me.
Can I ask, was that how far off was that $24,000 bid? Because I mean, for a 3-2 house and 10 years of deferred maintenance,
let's just say $19,000.
Oh, so they're like $5,000 off, right?
No. They were $19,000.
Oh, even with 10 years of deferred maintenance.
So the property manager I found was an investor.
Okay.
Right, and he's been in the game. He has a lot of connections. So he was. Because my head was like, replace everything. He's like, in this market, no, you replace this, and this.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Well, and then he had it done in like 3 weeks, had it back on the market, and we had it rented out in a month later.
That's great.
And only $5K into it.
And that makes a really good point. Sometimes I see people like, I want to make this super nice, new this. I was like, do you recognize what neighborhood you're in?
Yeah.
Is this going to really add value? Is this going to raise your rent? You want it to the standard of what the other ones are. Maybe slightly better. Obviously, you want to be the best in market, but do you need to be 10 times better and brand new floors and trim and all this stuff when your rent will support that,
Yeah.
So... yeah, kind of go through your journey of that process of obviously renovating a home and how much you should spend. Where did that click for you?
Luckily, I learned from him right away, because you don't know what you don't know. I'm thinking replace everything.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, all right, that look. Because I was looking at it from the lens of how I would live in the house, right? And then the house wasn't horrible, but I'm thinking you got to remove and replace. But he was like, no, man, we can, refinish the tub, do the backsplash, and then paint, carpet.
Paint covers a lot. Paint does a lot for a house.
That was the biggest thing, was paint, carpet, the bathtub. I thought I was have to replace the whole backsplash. He figured out something. And he just had a lot of connections because he was an investor and he became a property manager, and he knew the area really well.
Yeah.
And he was able to get it up to the standard for that area. And it worked. And then that was kind of my eye opener as far as when you over rehab, because it still happens a lot.
I see it all the time.
They they see all these shows on these flip shows, and they want I want my house to look like that. But do you know there's a D class?
I'll let them spend that much money if they want to, but that's not the smartest financial decision.
Yeah, and a property manager will, if you don't have the right property manager, they'll do exactly what you want them to do, or in my instance, that property manager I originally had, they didn't know any better, right? They just
I think they knew.
Well, sorry.
They knew.
Yeah, you're right. They did know. So.
That's how they get you,
Yeah.
Obviously, it seems like they had a relationship with that platform, and when there's people on that platform with money, they don't know what they're paying for, they're gonna charge you through the wazoo, you know. So
Yeah, and it still happens to this day, especially with like out-of-state investors, right?
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes some of these companies see people coming a mile away, right? A lot of money from California, just a lot of money from the coastal states goes out there from an investing standpoint. And if you don't have connections or relationships out there, that it can and will happen.
yeah, no, it's funny. I have a lot of friends from obviously up and down the coast who buy in the middle of the country because they like that cash flow. But then I also tell them like, you know, when things break, they generally cost the same as they do on the east and west coast. So it's still, it's still going to be expensive. So that cash flow that you were looking for is likely to be gone, especially if you choose a place with a lot of deferred maintenance.
Yes. Like I tell people, like that first year or so, like the first year and a half, just expect to break. If you break even, you're good.
Yeah.
But once you get through that first cycle, unless it's like you did a full blown burr or remodel, and there's still things that will come up. But like if you're into a new market and in those areas where you get a lot of snow, rain, like things are bound to happen.
I was going to ask because you're only telling us a bad experience. So what kept you in it? I'm assuming that with that bad experience, you would have switched to something else like crypto or another thing. What kept you in real estate?
Because I figured it all out, right? So like the worst.
So yeah,
case
once you had the
scenario,
problem solved, you're like, okay, I solved this problem.
Was it making money at this point? Like you said, was it like, oh, I can see the wealth coming from the real estate starting to happen?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing is like, all right, I'm 3,000 miles away. I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And I figured it out. And from there, that was like, okay, I can do this. And so that led to me like kind of going down a journey of bigger pockets and then learning more about real estate. And then I became like just addicted to bigger pockets. And I was doing a lot of driving in the Bay Area from the Valley. So every morning I'm listening to 2 hours of David, and Brandon, and like those are my guys. Like they're in my head, like
I still hear their voices too. Yeah,
yeah. And you're hearing all these different stories from investors, and like that's what got me hooked, right?
Yeah.
So I started hitting all the very humble beginnings, how people got into it and how it changed their life, and the wealth building, and I'm like, that can be me. Like I can do this.
Okay.
And then and like I said, once I went through that whole scenario, like. It didn't deter me. I was like, I figured it out.
Yeah.
Got the property rented, made connections out there, and I was able to build a team in it at the same time.
So then did you immediately like buy another one in Detroit or in Michigan area because you had that experience, or what was your next move?
My next move was a house hack in California.
Okay.
Yeah, so
primary for yourself, and then you rented out rooms?
No, it was a duplex.
Oh, it was duplex.
Yeah, okay. So it was a 3-2 on one side, the side we live in, and then there was a 2-2 on the other side. Okay. And so this was like in 2000. So that house was 2018. This is in 2019. And at that time, that time the market was crazy. Like it was. That's when
I bought. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just houses were not lasting at all. And then I had an agent that I met at the gym. Good guy, great guy. And I was working with him, but then there was an incident happened where, for me, like, and I was still like really early in the whole investing world. And I think as I take a step back and look, I wasn't crystal clear on what to let him know what I expected from him. But what I did expect from him was his expertise and negotiations on different properties, right? And so I remember I had found a property that had even hit the market. Like me and my wife would drive around like every Saturday and Sunday morning, and this one had just put the stake in the ground with the sign.
Nice.
And she's on Zillow. I'm like, oh, it's not even on there. So I call him. We put an offer in, and we offer like $20,000 over asking. It hadn't even hit the market yet.
Yeah.
And then the guy countered for like a appraisal guarantee, and I was like, okay, like, what do you want me to do? Like, this was my second property, so that was all new to me. And he's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. You're the.
I mean, as a realtor, you should definitely put out what the risks are. In the case
did he explain it to you what that meant?
Eventually he did, but I think it just. That day I remember it was like 8:00, and I don't know. I just had this vision in my mind that like he should have walked me through options, and then like, hey, these are our choices, and like you got A, B, and C, but it didn't go that route.
Did this underappraise? I'm a little scared. I want to hear.
I lost
I don't
it.
think you got the deal.
Yeah, I didn't get the deal. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I didn't get this deal.
because
And,
you didn't feel comfortable. Yeah.
yeah, and then
How much were you putting down?
this one at the time it was like 425 asking, and I think I put offer 445.
I mean, how much down payment were you putting in?
Oh, this is
situation?
FHA, so
you're doing-
3.5%.
you were doing the minimum, yeah.
Yeah, it was 3.5%.
Did you have extra money available?
Yeah, I had extra money available. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, you can also always talk with your lender about that, too, about, like, what does it mean, right? What will happen?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, so that led me to just switching lenders. So I ended up working with the green team, and it was
David Green's team.
yeah, it was what I expected, right? So anytime, what's good about it because like their overall process is like they bring you in, they walk you through the whole what to expect from them. They get like questions from you on like what you should expect, just to make sure that like you align from the start.
Oh, yeah.
And then as things come up, as you're putting in offers, and then contingencies that they give you their feedback and like, hey, in other cases we've seen this happen. This is what we think you should do, but you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that was like a big help in the whole process.
Yeah, lay out the risk for you so you can make the decision on
Right.
if this worst case scenario happens, am I going to be able to handle it?
Exactly.
Or know what to do in this case?
Right.
And that's what I expected, and so
as you should.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's a very, like, realistic expectation.
Right.
It's a very low
Yeah.
bar to clear,
Yeah.
but a lot of people can't clear that bar. It's funny.
Yeah.
But not funny, but
but it's real. Like I know that now because it's so true. But yeah, ended up working with him, was great. Him and his team, and then we ended up closing on the last day of 2019. Yeah. So this was like the 3-2. I want to say they were asking like 430. We got it like 405.
Where is this?
This is in Quail Lakes in Stockton. Yeah.
Stockton, yeah.
Yeah.
Stockton. Okay. What is it worth now?
It's like 580 or 6.
Okay. You still have it?
Yeah, so I have it.
Okay. You still have it.
Yeah.
And then, so what were your like mortgage payment versus how much you were renting the other side for? How much did it subsidize?
So it's subsidized from what I was paying. So I was living in Brookside, was like the nicest area in Stockton. I was paying like $2,500 a month for rent.
Okay.
And then I moved there and I was paying like $900.
Oh, top of your mortgage.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, because you had your tenant paying, what were they paying, like $1,200?
Yeah, like $1,200,
Okay,
yeah.
Nice.
And yeah, now it cash flows. I think the mortgage payment, because it's locked in at like a 3.1.
It's like
yeah.
$2,000
That's
or
amazing.
something,
Yeah, don't touch that.
Yeah, that thing's just sitting doing what it. Yeah, that thing's never going anywhere. So.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was like number 2, and once again, I was able to all that additional money I was saving just from like paying rent, put that to the side, and then I'm going all in. So in 2020, I had this epiphany. I'm driving to the Bay Area on Highway 26. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, life is more than this, right?
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause I had this massive territory, and so
Oh, this is for work. You're
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I was at Red Bull as a general sales manager. Loved it. Red Bull's great. Learned a lot. Taught me a lot. Got me to where I'm at. But it required a lot of time. And I had a facility. If you guys are familiar with the North Bay Petaluma.
Yeah.
So
North of Sausalito?
yeah, north of Sausalito. And so it was about a good 2.5 hours on a good day. 2 hours, like if you leave early enough. So I'll just leave so I would avoid traffic. And it was Highway 12. As I'm going up Highway 12, bigger pockets in the background, I'm like, there's got to be more to life than this, right? And I was like, my daughters are starting to get older and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta make a move so I can like really start just kind of wrapping it up in real estate and just in the shift in time for my family. And so, in the greatest time to leave a job, in July of 2020, best time to leave a job, I decided to leave Red Bull and I went to Arizona Iced Tea. The move was great. It's exactly what I needed just from a flexibility and time standpoint, because I went from having to oversee multiple facilities throughout California to just being home based, and at that time was COVID, so a lot of customers weren't meeting face to face. It was all Zoom. So I went from days of like 10 to 12 hours to literally days of like 4 to 5.
Nice.
And so I didn't start practicing my gaming. I didn't do anything like that. I started really leaning into like investing back into myself, right?
Yeah.
So I started hitting more meetups. I got professional coaching, and then one of the things I told myself, I'm like, okay, if I make this move, like I'm going like all in on real estate. I'm like, my goal is to buy. I think I set a goal to buy like 20 units the next year, which is
in 1 year.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. Stretch goal.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
stretch goal. Like I was doing jason.j's mindset coaching, right? Learned a lot, and like that really helped shift my frame and just have me focus on getting bigger and just getting in bigger rooms, and that was the goal. And I think 2021, I had locked up my first one like in March, and I got another one in June.
These are when you say another one, like individual.
These
right?
were single families,
Okay.
right?
Family.
And then
What method were you doing? Just putting 20% down?
no, this is Burr. So
You were renovating them, buying private money, renovating, and then refinancing out.
Yeah. So the first one, it was a Burr, it was my own capital. And then the second one, I ended up finding this company called Corvest, and they specialize in working with investors. And I was able to get like a line of credit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I found this out by calling local banks, right? I was just running a play that I heard on Big Up Pockets. They were like, call local banks and see, they do different things. And this guy was like, hey, well, what you're doing, like, you should reach out to this company. And so I called them, and they had this like rehab line of credit where you put like 15 to 20% down. They cover the full rehab. You get back 80% of the ARV. So it was sweet. Like it was super simple, the whole process. So I used like the next 3 properties. I ended up using that, and I think it was like 4 or 5. And then as you talked about partnerships, then I met somebody that I really aligned with, and we're on the same page. He had like single families as well, some small multi-families, and it was like, let's get an apartment building. And then so
It was a jump, yeah.
Yeah, and then so we ended up getting like this 19 unit, and that one's been performing really well.
So you hit your 20 unit goal.
Yeah, believe it, right? Yeah, sorry.
Can you talk about this 19 unit? Where was it, and how did you finance it?
So this one is in Illinois. Is in what's the name of it? We have a midterm out there too. Yeah, so it's in Illinois. So this one, my partner, he was coming out of a 1031. He had just sold a property, and then so how it would work for me to partner in this, we put in like a TIC, tenants in common. Mm-hmm. And then so I had money from stocks still. Stocks were still doing well, and I was like, okay. As the shift in, I mean, if I would have kept the money in there, I still made some decent money off the stock. So I literally sold all my stocks, or a significant portion of it, and I had some cash too. And then that's how I came in with my portion.
With your
of
half.
this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was sort of 25% down on this?
Yeah, it was 25. Okay. 25% down.
So for selling your stocks,
you just did commercial financing on that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really, really good deal because it was like it's a local bank. It's First Federal or First Financial out in Illinois. The overall points, it was.
And they gave you like a 5-year or 10-year balloon, or
5-year.
5-year balloon.
Yeah, 5-year.
Okay.
Sorry, you were asking Stephen about selling stocks.
Yeah. So selling your stocks. I mean, weren't you like you made a lot of money, but obviously you had to pay huge capital gains on that. Was that a huge concern? And
yeah, and no, because like I was like really leaning into real estate, and
it was long term too, right? It wasn't
because I had them for a while, so I did take a hit.
A year,
but not that big of a hit.
Okay. And how did you vet out this kind of 19 unit? Like, how did you? What kind of sold you on it? Because there's a lot of, let's say, there's a lot of apartment buildings out there that the numbers look great, but they don't do great. So there's like, can you tell? You don't have to name the city because you clearly don't remember it.
Cicero.
Cicero.
Okay.
And were you targeting a turnkey, or were you wanting a value add?
So we're looking for a value add, but if we can find one that was in decent shape, this one was already performing well, but still had a lot of upside in regards to the rent loss gap, and then we added laundry, and a couple of different things. So we're definitely looking for a value add play, but nothing that was like destroyed, So
Yeah.
the occupancy was already great. I think we were about like when we acquired it was like 80, high 80s. But the rents were definitely about anywhere from $100 to $150 under in some of the units because they had been there for so long.
Yeah.
So it was great, and at that time that was 2021. Market was crazy.
Yep.
My partner has a lot of connections in Illinois, and this broker, and he brought it to us before it hit the market.
Nice.
So we were in a bidding battle like we were with some other ones. But to answer your question, we really relied on this broker in particular, which was a good buddy of my partner.
Yeah.
And so for his expertise, because we had all these other brokers sending us deals, and of course, like you look at the pro forma and all, like they all look great.
Every
right?
property looks great when it's on the MLS or
Yeah,
when it's listed.
Good. But we really relied on him and like that relationship because like we knew he wouldn't sell us wrong,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you trusted the city and all the things and the like crime rate, or what factors did you look into for that property in particular?
So I mean, overall the opportunity on performance, like what can we do? What levers can we pull to increase the NOI? That was the biggest one. Like, is there room to make this thing perform at a higher level? The other one, of course, was the location. Working class, at least a C plus or higher, low crime rate, decent schools, a growing area. Because Illinois as a whole has declined, but there are some areas that have increased, and so, so there's some of the normal factors, and then, the average income versus the rent, so just to make sure like the people working there can actually pay the rent.
Yeah.
So,
that's an important one.
Yeah.
And you said opportunity, and you mentioned you had to add a laundry room. There's a couple units that are paying under market. So was there a strategy of trying to get them out so you can get up to market, or what was your strategy of taking advantage of those opportunities?
Initially, so I think this one had one or two tenants that there was one vacant, and then there were two units that were going to expire within the next 60 days where people were moving out. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, we went and rehabbed the first unit, and then kind of going back to what we talked about before, it was like, oh, rehab the whole thing, but I'm like, no, take a step back, right?
Just making money. You don't want to add a vacancy.
Yeah. And then so like we rehabbed the empty one, and then as leases start to come up, they were so under market. We just did small bumps, $50 here, and then like you're not putting any money in to get money back, right?
Yeah.
And it was like that's the best return just by doing a simple rate increase, and nobody's pushing back because they were so under market in some of them. So.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody has the dream of getting things to market rate, but that means getting them out, spending a lot of money fixing it, sitting on the market for X amount of time, and when you could just bump it up $50 and have that money consistently there.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part.
And then do you have this? You found a property manager and everything.
Yeah, so our property manager is like the property manager of the year. Like this guy, he's an investor. He has a ton of properties in Cicero. He like owns Cicero. So originally we tried to manage it ourselves, like with systems. We use a company out of the Bay Area. My buddy knew the gal that's like the CEO, so we tested them out. How the system's set up, they have like different, plumbers and handyman, all like a database in every area that they operate. So if you're a tenant, you go to the portal, hey, my sink is leaking, they automatically like send somebody over.
Oh, interesting.
So we tried that for a while, but then it came.
Gotta get buy-in from the tenants to do that.
Yeah. and it was working, but it became just one of those things where me and my buddy were tired of just getting emails like, hey, unit 504 needs to HVAC check. I was like, let's just give this to somebody who can do a good job. And this guy John Warren, he's a broker, property manager, and he's a rock star, dude. Like this, he treats his building like it's his own, and he just takes action to improve it in every way, shape, or form. So it's just been a great performing property for us.
And how big of a difference was it to step into the small apartment world versus like single family or duplex?
Honestly, it still shocks me to this day. Like it felt like it was an easier process.
Really?
Like because definitely like going through like the actual loan process, the broker and dealing with the lenders, like they're not really looking at you. They're looking at the performance of the property.
Yeah.
Right? If you're buying a single family home, they want your blood type and your mama's, your daddy, like they want everything. And I was shocked how like simple the process felt versus like just buying single family homes.
Oh yeah.
Even if you compare it to like a DSCR loan, right? Like an investor loan, it's much simpler than buying your own primary. So like it felt really easy, and maybe it was I expected it to be like a heavy lift, right? Because like commercial now and all that, but I'm like once we're in the process, maybe it was like this was pretty easy, it didn't seem like it was a heavy lift. I think initially like the biggest thing for me, because like as we were scaling up, it was a mindset shift, right? Because I had never seen a property that had 1 point something on it. I was like, oh, and then luckily I was in at that time in Jason .j's Mindset Academy, and he was like, the only thing that's different from 100,000 to $1 million is the zero. That's he's like the way you approach it, right? If the numbers work at 100,000. If it works at $1 million, like you approach it the same way. The only thing different is the zero. But psychologically, you see that you're like, oh my God, and now that's like long gone. But I think that was like the biggest thing for me at that time was like
just the scale of the number.
Yeah, that extra zero. Like, oh, okay, this is different. This is a different ball game.
So you got the apartment now. You met your 20-unit goal. What was the next move after that?
The next move was a midterm rental in Chicago.
Okay.
So that was about 2 months after this one.
Oh man, you were moving. You're like 20. Yeah, screw that. Let's keep going.
This is back when short terms were popular. Why did you decide to go for the midterm?
Oh, because it got denied as a short term.
Oh, okay. Because of the city restrictions.
Yeah. So we put the application in request for it, and they denied it, and it was like, okay, what's the next best option? And then we went midterm.
So your goal was to buy a short term, and then you had to turn it to a midterm.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little, because we just had Shona Lepis. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
Yeah, I've met her at one of the meetups.
Yeah, and she's the midterm queen. But I mean, I'd say midterm was kind of fresh then. I mean, people are just thinking of like travel nurses, et cetera. So how was that transition for you, learning how to do? Well, I guess you hadn't done a short term yet, had you?
No.
Okay.
I had friends and that I did it, but I had never.
So just shorter than a whole year-long lease. How was that, and the learning process for that? How do you feel it went?
Yeah,
it was great.
You had to furnish it. Had to a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah. So we
market it a different way.
Yeah, we hired a designer. We didn't do it. Me and my buddy hired a designer. We paid her like $5,000. She's very handy and crafty, so she went in there. Place looked beautiful, so we didn't have to worry about that. I think we put in new cabinets or something, and then I figured out Furnace Finder. I mean, the property looked so good; it sold itself, right?
Yeah.
So I just figured that out, how to, put the description on there, and then once we put it up, it was just like, man. It was just like so much activity, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure we're too low in price, right? Like we're just getting, and then so then we raised it, activity slowed down, and then we figured out how to like find the ideal price, and that was pretty much like all me, like because my buddy, my partner is like boots on the ground. I'm more like the strategy and all that, and so
here the stock trading experience comes into play.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm assuming there's a little bit of seasonality in it too, like
and we figured out seasonality, and that's when we started looking at Airbnb and all that. But it's been good, I mean, our tenants there, I mean, normally are over 3 months or more. We've had a couple of people that's been there for like 9 months.
How many bedrooms or bathrooms?
It's just it's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath.
And what are you getting? monthly?
So high season, like right now, I think we're getting like 1,800. If it was to rent, it'd get like 1,250.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like 50% more than it would be if it was a long-term rental.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then, I mean, the cool thing, the reason why I love it is because...
Is this just like one of those condos in
Yeah,
Chicago?
it's a condo.
Yeah, because there's a ton of those, right?
Yeah, it's just the norm.
Yeah.
And it's like within a mile and a half, like 3 different hospitals. So it's just like the perfect location.
Perfect for travel nurses.
And then, the thing about it is like the happy medium between short term and long term. When tenants leave, we have the cleaners go over there, and sometimes it's like nobody's even lived there because all they do is work.
Yeah.
Right.
And
for them, paying a 500, 600 extra bucks a month, it's totally worth it because you've got all the furniture there. You're probably not going to be there that long.
Also, the stipend if they're travelers too.
Right.
So it's like it doesn't even matter.
It doesn't impact you as much. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I love the model. I'm actually like looking either that model here or actually like the kind of like the sober living, like that model. I think it kind of attracts me. I look for stuff that can work in any market. And
So you're back to single family now.
Well, yeah, like I mean, because I've never invested where I've lived. That's what I tell people. Like I want to be able to touch,
Yeah, you want to touch the house. You got to know what city the house is in.
Yeah, I don't need to by any means,
I
but
know.
I think it would be cool.
It'd be nice to know where's the house. What is the address?
Yeah, so I think we were talking about that. If I do start like investing locally, it'd be something like where you can maximize the cash flow from the property. So
okay, yeah. So that one in Chicago was the last one, huh?
Yeah, and then I mean. Yeah, last one for me. We're working through another multifamily one that
A commercial multifamily or a small multifamily?
like 26 unit.
Oh,
that
okay.
we're kind of working through. So that one's kind of we've been working through for like a year and a half. But since then, I haven't done anything. Like because I moved to Oregon and I kind of put everything on pause because I have a wife, 2 kids. I want to make sure that like they transition well and all that. And
can I ask what was the push for moving to Oregon?
So in 2021, I left Red Bull, and I went to Arizona on a T. Yeah. Perfect role, exactly what I needed. And then in the end of 2021, they called me like, "Hey, we got a role. We want you in Oregon." I'm like, "Things are pretty good for me." I'm like, like, if you want me in Oregon, like, it's gonna take a lot. And so I kind of threw out my demands, as I say, and then they came back like, "Yeah," and then I was out there. 4 months later, so like we always talk, me and my wife, if we were thinking about moving again out of California. And it was only a few different places. It was like Denver, Arizona, or Oregon. We did the South, not a fan of the humidity, crazy storms and all that. Like love the people, love the culture, the weather, not for me. And then like Oregon was one of those spots, and she's a gamer, so we decided and we came out for the journey to the Pac Northwest.
When you say gamer, can you specify what you?
Like she's in, like
you're like it's like she's actually gaming.
No, she's not. She's not a gamer.
Yeah, with
but
the rain, that's perfect.
No. Like she's. We've made several moves in our short stint together, and
she's game.
Yeah, she's game when it comes to it. Like, because I know a lot of people who've never left the neighborhood that they grew up in. And so we've been in Texas.
She's not afraid of change.
Yeah, she's not afraid of change. Yeah.
So. And you mentioned, you talked a little bit about not wanting to have someone controlling your future, and it seemed so when after you moved up here. No longer with Red Bull, you started your own thing, right? You purchased a franchise. Is that right? Or how did?
Yeah. So February 2020 left Red Bull. So now that one painter, we're out here painting homes in the Pac Northwest, interior, exterior, cabinet staining. We do it all. So that was kind of the next iteration. So one thing I left out in this whole process when I've been on this development journey for the last few years. Just becoming the best version of myself, leveling up, getting in bigger rooms, putting myself out there, seeing how I can help. In 2020, into 2020, like it was like the last day I joined GoBundance, right? And so the reason why I did that because I wanted to be the smallest person in the room. I wanted to be in rooms where I felt uncomfortable in a good way, right? Where I can sit back and be a fly on the wall and just through osmosis learn and challenge myself and just be around people that think different, act different.
I love the Tribe of Millionaires podcast. I listen to that all the time.
Yeah, it's great.
Great, yeah.
It's a great group of guys, man. Just like the vulnerability, the authenticity. Like I had never been around just a group of people. Like my very first call I jumped on, a guy is just ball. This is like 6 o'clock in the morning, just bawling, open up deep about something that he's dealing with. And I was like, whoa, right? Because I come from like the W-2 world where it's all nobody shows any faults or like everything's perfect all the time. And I got into this community and it's just like men showing who they are, and these are like A players, top of the, these are just like guys who are killing it. But to join GoBundance, there's like a thorough process, interview process. They want to make sure they have like the right people there that truly embody all the values. And I just knew I was in the right place. So, I got to be around people that were in, a lot of the real estate guys who are just doing some beyond crazy stuff. A lot of business people, and it's more than like the wealth part. Like that's one part of it, but a lot of it for me was like the health, the contribution, big focus on contribution and giving back.
Yeah.
Big adventure, and so I joined that, and then they have one big part of it. It's called the Go Pod. So it's your accountability group.
Yep.
And so you meet on a weekly, weekly or bi-weekly, however you set it up. And then I'm in there with some really solid guys, Jordan, and we just got an amazing team. Like these guys are crushing it, like just totally crushing it. And you don't know what you don't know till you get around like a lot of people who are performing. And then you don't know the value you can add, right?
Yeah.
And so just by getting around, like Aaron and the rest of the guys, and even the guys in the Pac Northwest, like there's a lot of value that I was able to add that I didn't know, and a lot of things that they seen in me, like things that come easy to you don't see.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're meeting with somebody every week and then they're like, hey, dude, like you're good at this, and this, right? And one of the things came out of it is like, why don't you like look to like start your own business or buy a business? And so that's kind of what sparked that interest, right? And I'm around all these like entrepreneurs and whatnot, and then so my goal was like, okay, by June 2025, they was like, give us a date, like GoBundance is like that. Like,
I love that. Like set a goal, you have to hit it. Yeah,
it's 100% it's extreme accountability in every way, shape, or form, and it's not like, hey, I want to do this. It's like, no, when are you gonna do it? Put it on paper, because weekly your goal pod will be checking in on it, and people throughout the tribe as well. And then so that was the goal. But then back in last year, basically in October, we were at a Bend event. And have you guys ever done breath work?
I've heard of it. I've never tried it. Yeah.
Okay, you should try it. It's amazing. We did a couple different things. For one, I jumped off a bridge, which I never thought I would do. So I bungee jumped. It was just a crazy 3 days. Like I had told myself I would never jump off a bridge, and I found out really wise because I was scared. Like I said, I thought through. I was like, why would I do this? And I did it, so it was good. And then, but we did this holotropic breath work, and it's like uncovered a couple things, and just a lot of certainty came out of it for me, like to bet on myself, right? Because like we all have these, these fears in our head that kind of hold us back, but that like really unlock something, release something. And then the other thing was I met an individual out there, RJ, and that had already kind of started T1P. We got to talking. He let me know what he was working on, and then we came to agreement. And then 5 months later, I'm here.
Yeah.
What I can tell you though, if I hadn't done that breath work, I don't know if I would have took the jump.
Really? Well, what was it about the breath work that?
Because it's a crazy journey. First of all, like it's all you're doing is breathing. It's like guided breathing, controlled breathing. You do like these belches and whatnot, but it feels like you're on some type of drug, like it's like an out of body experience, right? And then you go It kind of starts off on you think through something that like you're holding on to, right? Like something that like whether it's regret or disappointment, and then like for me it went like super deep to a crazy experience. Like clear as day when I was 8 years old in LA at school, and I lost my mom at a very young age. My dad was never in my life, and I remember like the teacher was asking, and it's like, oh, the parent teachers day is like next week. And I remember clear as day, never thought about this ever in my life until this point. And I got super small because I was like, dude, I don't even have parents, right? And like at 8 years old, you can't even like process that, right? But like literally like this breath work took me back to that point. I'm not a crier. My wife calls me the Tin Man. I'm like bawling, like dude, like. And there's like 35 people in here, Jordan, like men, A-type, like you just hear people. That it was just crazy experience. So you go from that, and it goes to like things that you're grateful for. It's like this roller coaster ride, but then it goes to a part as far as like what's holding you back, like what's holding you back from creating the life that you truly want or taking the journey that you truly want. And what came out of that was like, I'm the only person that's holding myself back, right? Like all of us, like if you think about like anything in life, like we could be our own worst enemy, and it's because like the stories that we tell ourselves, right? And one thing that came out of it as well is like all three of us would not be here if we didn't overcome everything that has came at us, right? So like we wouldn't be here. So every opportunity, every fear, every battle, like we made it through. That's why we're all sitting here talking about this podcast right now.
Yep.
And a lot of certainty came from that for me, right? Just like I've been through life, right? Everybody has a crazy life, good, bad, and different. Some harder, some. And for me, like a lot of certainty came from this experience that like just like that first property, right? Like everything that could have went wrong, and I figured it out, right?
Yeah, you're still here.
Yeah, and I'm still here.
You're still doing it.
Yeah, and so that's kind of a lot of certainty came from that I didn't give to myself from that experience. So it was if you've never done it, it's called holotropic breathwork. I did it with was it Sean or Brian Kennedy. Amazing. It was an amazing experience. So
it gave you the belief in yourself that you could leave the salaried / commission W-2 world and move on to the self-employed, own a business world.
Yeah, I think. I was already gonna do it, but it just created a lot more certainty to do.
What are you waiting for?
Yeah, it was like that. The urgency behind it, like what, dude? If you're gonna do it, don't wait till June 2025. Like the opportunity's in front of you. Like do it. Like, you're lying. Yeah, and so like that's what I mean. Like urgency, certainty, because like I'm a spreadsheet guy. I'll go back
did you try and play both worlds for a little bit, or did you just rip the Band-Aid and go?
Yeah, so for me, like I'm about like Red Bull was great. Been great to me this whole time. So like for me, I'm always about fulfilling all my commitments. So I'll let them know, gave them an extended period of time, like 30, 45 days. Like hey,
that's a long notice.
Yeah, and so make sure everything was buttoned up. Oregon's a big market for Red Bull, so I'll make sure everything was as smooth as it can, and then we launched T1P.
Can you talk about the painting business and why you chose that? And is this something like you knew anything about, or?
Overall, once we talked about the opportunity, I started doing research on the painting business. Really recess improved. Big opportunity, really fragmented.
People need to paint all the time.
All the time, something. Interior, exterior. Like. Property management. So lots of opportunity, a really fragmented market. It grew even through COVID, and then even through like the down years, even when we were in the big R word, it still grew. The painting industry still grew by a couple percent. So I went back and did some analysis from that standpoint. The other big thing was like the company in general. So That One Painter, that's what we launched and kind of like what they're about. Their CEO, Steven's great, ex-pastor, big on just generosity, their core values about how they approach it, very customer-centric, but really mean it, right? Everybody has a thing that behind them, a culture wall or whatever, their values that says something about the customer, but if you call it to try to get something fixed, like, you're not getting it fixed.
Yeah.
Right?
I've seen that before.
Yeah, so, but they really truly embody it, and that's kind of what had me hooked as I start kind of like doing more research into them, and then of course RJ, just 100% aligned as far as thinking big and what we're building, but beyond that, just the intricacies of the painting industry. No, I'm learning all that now. Learned a lot, but a big part of what we do is like the sales part. So my team goes out there. We get leads in. They're out there. So if you got a lead from you, they come to your house. Hey, what are you looking to do? Kind of just uncover like what your big vision is, and then walk you through how we can make that happen. And then we close out the deal. Then our sub partners come in there and they paint the property. So. Learning a lot from that standpoint, but it's been good, man. It's been a good ride. Never a dull moment, because especially like you're building a business, like it's a franchise, like we talked about. But at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff is from the marketing, the cool hats, and like a framework, but you still have to build the business, right?
Of course.
It's the second largest.
You're still in sales.
Yeah, you're still in sales, and you still have to let people know who you are, right? No matter how big they are, this is the farthest west that they've came, and we have to do what we have to do to get exposure out there, from the digital piece to like the grassroots networking and whatnot, doing good work, taking care of our customers, driving referrals. No matter what, you're still building a business. Yeah. So, for me, it's been good, and it aligns with my future version and where I'm going, because people's like, at Red Bull, once they found out I was doing it, was like, is it easy here? I'm like, no, you're building a business. like talk to any entrepreneur and ask them how that started,
Definitely not.
Ask
it might be more fun.
Yeah, it's fun, because when you're building something for yourself,
exactly,
it's just it's a different attachment to it, a different passion behind it, a different fire behind it, but that doesn't take away that you're building business.
Yeah, it's sink or swim kind of feeling,
sink or swim. It's like you have the good days, your bad days, and you think things are going great. You're like, it's just you're building a business. It's the entrepreneurial journey. So.
And how many employees are you responsible for?
So right now we have 3, but by the end of the year we'll have 6 total.
And is it just you, or did you buy in with someone else, or?
Yeah, so RJ out of Eugene. So he's he's the majority owner, and then
So he's a Go Abundance guy.
Yeah, he's a Go Abundance guy. Great guy, amazing guy. And then he's more high level, day to day, and then just with the team and all that, I kind of run that, and then we run traction, L10 and all that good stuff. So but it's been great. Definitely learned a lot. Learning a lot about the local marketing, the differences between just the markets in general. They're from Texas, we're in Portland. A lot of just a totally different game on what sticks here versus other markets. But it's been fun.
That's good. No, I mean, like I said, I also went the whole do your own business thing. Obviously, being a realtor, and like I said, it's a passion play. It's definitely not the money.
Yeah, but it's aligned with what you want, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, painting is real estate related, and it kind of is in the same ballpark. So was that part of your reason for choosing that, and not I don't know, Dippin' Dots or something?
Yes. Like I told you, before we jumped on, I just love talking real estate, love learning. There's so many different strategies. I love hearing people's stories of how they got started, because they're just depending on who you talk to, people got in it so many different ways. You started with a fourplex, I met a girl out, and I was at Bigger Pockets. She ended up doing rent by the room, was just crushing it. She lived in her couch, put a wall up, and she's making $3,000 out of a 4-bedroom house. That just I just enjoy just kind of hearing people's stories, what got them to where they're at, and just talking real estate, and how I can help with my story, and pull somebody along, and definitely love hearing the guys who are just crushing it, doing big things, because that just kind of opens my perspective as well.
Yeah. So. No, I mean, I find your story fascinating. In the last 6 years, going from just standard W-2 to full on 20+ units,
Investor,
your own
center,
business.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's your, moving forward, what's your kind of 5-year timeline or plan, or where do you see yourself going?
Definitely building T1P. We got a pretty clear roadmap of where we're going over the next 5 years. Build this thing out, expanding it. Within That One Painters, part of Resi Brands, they have some other verticals like Pink's Garage Up. They have essentially Resi brand is like residential brands, so they have all these other like brands that are related to residential. So it's like a Garage Up, they do custom garages, or they do Pink's is like window service and all that. So there's opportunity there. So definitely expanding this thing out, and making it.
Oh, you mean like other services that you can include? In
Yeah, because like you figure like once you're in like with a franchise, like the systems and processes are pretty much the same. It's just a different vertical if you were to expand out.
Got it.
And then continue to build this into what we know it will be and can be. So growing this, and then investing locally in some capacity. Yeah, I really like the sober living. I know a couple people that are doing it.
I had my sister turn one of her houses into a sober living facility. So
yeah.
Or she found somebody who would rent it as a sober living facility. So
yeah,
it's good, solid, and they manage it for you, and you don't have to worry about stuff. So that's nice.
And you're doing something good for the community. Like I've been on this just like really intentional about giving back. Like just last week, me and my family were at a food bank, and like we help out the church and whatnot. And so like that's been a big one. And then like for me, like that model, you're giving back in some way, shape, or form, because you're helping people out who need housing that have went through life, right?
Yeah.
We all go through life. And I mean, and you're able to make some money off of it too, so that's the win-win.
Definitely not a bad place to be.
We've been happy with ours. Yeah, we've been super happy with ours.
Oh yeah, you do have. Yeah, that is right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so getting back into real estate in some capacity, I just haven't figured it out exactly what that is yet, but that's kind of what I'm leaning to if I do it locally. Mm-hmm. But still open to looking at like out of state as well.
I'm gonna put a goal of 40 units this year, so you can hit it. I'm just saying, it's just
let's do that next year. I'm focused on painting right now. All right.
No, I love that. And if our guests or listeners were looking to find you, how can they find you on social media or your business?
Yeah, the business is That One Painter, Oregon City, on Facebook, on Instagram. And then if you want to look for me specifically, I am JJ_REI to Wealth on Instagram.
Okay, so I love that.
Yeah.
Well, this was great. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge and story with us. We really appreciate it.
No, this has been great. I appreciate you guys bringing me on. Love to come on again, talk real estate. I love it.
Yeah, once you get those next 40 units, though.
All right. Give me the 2025.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay.
All right,
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.